शेषो न्यायश्च विस्तरः नैव चिन्त्यं न चाचिन्त्यं न चिन्त्यं चिन्त्यमेव तत् पक्षपातविनिर्मुक्तं ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते तदा स्वरेण सन्धयेत् योगम् अस्वरं भावयेत् परम् अस्वरेणानुभावेन भावो वा भावयिष्यते तदेव निष्कलं ब्रह्म निर्विकल्पं निरञ्जनं तद्ब्रह्माहमिति ज्ञात्वा ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते ध्रुवम् निर्विकल्पमनन्तं च हेतुदृष्टान्तवर्जितम् अप्रमेयमनादिं च यज्ञात्वा मुच्यते बुधः न निरोधो न चोत्पत्तिः न बद्धो न च साधकः न मुमुक्षुर्न वै मुक्तः इत्येषा परमार्थता एक एवात्मा मन्तव्यो जाग्रत् स्वप्न सुषुप्तिषु स्थानत्रयव्यतीतस्य पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते एक एव हि भूतात्मा भूते भूते व्यवस्थितः एकधा बहुधा चैव दृश्यते जलचन्द्रवत् घटसंवृतमाकाशं नीयमाने घटे यथा घटो नीयेतनाकाशः तथा जीवो नभोपमः घटवत् विविधाकारं भिद्यमानं पुनः पुनः तद्भग्नं न च जानाति स जानाति च नित्यशः शब्दमायावृतो नैव तमसा याति पुष्करे भिन्ने तमसि चैकत्वम् एक एवानुपश्यति शब्दाक्षरं परं ब्रह्म तस्मिन् क्षीणे यदक्षरम् तद्विद्वानक्षरं ध्यायेत् यदिच्छेच्छान्तिमात्मनः द्वे विद्ये वेदितव्ये तु शब्दब्रह्म परं च यत् शब्दब्रह्मणि निष्णान्तः परं ब्रह्माधिगच्छति ग्रन्थमभ्यस्य मेधावी ज्ञानविज्ञानतत्परः पलालमिव धान्यार्थी त्यजेत् ग्रन्थमशेषतः गवामनेकवर्णानां क्षीरस्याप्येकवर्णता क्षीरवत् पश्यते ज्ञानं लिङ्गिनस्तु गवां यथा घृतमिव पयसि निगूढं भूते भूते वसति विज्ञानं सततमन्थयितव्यं मनसा मन्थानुभूतेन ज्ञाननेत्रं समादाय उद्धरेत् वह्निवत्परं निष्कलं निश्चलं शान्तं तद्ब्रह्माहमिति स्मृतम् सर्वभूताधिवासं यत् भूतेषु च वसत्यपि सर्वानुग्राहकत्वेन तदस्म्यहं वासुदेवः तदस्म्यहं वासुदेव इति।
अच्युतं केशवं रामनारायणं कृष्णदामोदरं वासुदेवं हरिं श्रीधरं माधवं गोपिकावल्लभं जानकीनायकं रामचन्द्रं भजे। अच्युतं केशवं सत्यभामाधवं माधवं श्रीधरं राधिकाराधितम् इन्दिरामन्दिरं चेतसा सुन्दरं देवकीनन्दनं नन्दजं सन्ददे। विष्णवे जिष्णवे शङ्खिने चक्रिणे रुक्मिणी रागिणे जानकी जानये। वल्लवी वल्लभायार्चितायात्मने कंसविध्वंसिने वंशिने ते नमः।
Summary of Discourse 5. What happens to the mind which loses its attachments to Vishaya? The Upanishad says the mind becomes free. Freedom is not a quality or a state attained by the mind. Freedom is to stop identifying with the mind, to know that I am not the mind. Freedom is to drop all distinctions and differences imagined by the mind, to be one with all. Mantra number 4. What does one do with the purified mind that is withdrawn from objects? The mantra tells us to let the mind abide in the hridi, in the heart. Hridi here does not refer to the physiological organ, but the spiritual center of our being, the core of existence consciousness that expresses as I am, I am. Ramana Maharishi says that the Atma resides in the epicenter of one's heart. It is self-evident. No effort is required to perceive it. Etymologically, Hridi can be deconstructed into Hri, Harati, meaning to take, Dadati, meaning to give, enable, and Yamati, Yamayati, govern, control. Hridaya is the reality that is the source and destination of everything, the sentience that enlivens and governs everything. Let the purified mind steadily contemplate that unborn, immutable, timeless consciousness that is the foundation of its being. How can one cease identifying with the mind? The Upanishads say one way is the path of negation, where one negates the reality of each successive sheath that conceals the self. One can also continuously question the reality of the experiences of the ego until its unreality gets exposed and it falls. This inquiry demands constant self-awareness and questioning. Bhakti, Seva, Puja, and Japa are all practices that help one to keep the mind abiding in the heart. Abidance is not attained or acquired. Abidance is the mind dissolving into the infinite that is our true being. It is realized only by renunciation. When all thoughts cease, does not one end up in shunyata, a void of nothingness? No. There can be no thought without consciousness. The equation is thought is equal to object plus consciousness. Therefore, thought minus object is equal to consciousness. That is not a void, but the inexpressible, undeniable, non-negatable principle of existence, I. That is the abode of the Supreme. How long must one focus the mind in the heart? Until the mind dissolves in the heart. How does one come to know of that dissolution? One does not experience any special phenomenon. Just as one emerges from sleep to wakefulness and one knows one is awake, knowledge is effortlessly, intuitively experienced. How can one measure progress on this path? The urge to engage with the world reduces, ego pressure reduces, detachment and equanimity increase, the mind no longer 5. The essence of the Upanishad is not to beautify or purify the ego. It is to destroy the ego. The rest is logic and elaboration. We use the knowledge in the Upanishad to contemplate and realize the self. That is the highest knowledge. That effortless state of awareness is meditation. Be clear about your goal. Be clear about the means to the goal. Then start walking.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Hari Om Swamiji. Respectful pranams to you and pranams and welcome to the other sadhakas who are present today. The Sampurna Yajaman for today's program and other discourses on Amritabindu Upanishad are Sri Chittur Manohar, Srimati Jolly Silvipat, Srimati Nirja Bhirla, Srimati Radha Kini. The Upayajmans for the whole program are Srimati Chitra Vora, Srimati Kalpana Morparia, Sri Kishore Mallarpur, Srimati Kumud Jnanendra Mishra, Srimati Preeti Saxena. Today's Dainik Yajmans are Sri Ravi Kumar Karvi, Srimati Veena Rajpal, Srimati Rupa Kumar. With this, I request Swamiji to commence his discourse.
Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam Shruti-smriti-purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Samasta-jana-kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma-vidvaram Om Bhadram Karnebhiः Shrunuyama Devaः Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraः Sthirairangai Stuštuvagmsastanubhiः Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuः Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravah Swasti na Pusha Vishvavedaः Swasti nastarksho Arishtanemiः Swasti no Brihaspatirdadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om, salutations to one and all. We saw the Amritabindu Upanishad says we have to free the mind from the sense attachments and it has to be absorbed in the self. And how long should it be absorbed? So long as its separate existence is not dissolved. Now, to make the mind abide in the self, in the heart, as we saw, the mind has to realize the infinite. In the sense, the mind does not experience infinite as an object, but it dissolves in it. So how should one meditate, contemplate, so that this experience happens? I'm using the word experience because it's limitation of language. The realization is not an experience because experience comes and goes. It is our nature even right now. It is ever existing. But with reference to our identification with the limited right now, we are as though not experiencing it. So we use the word experience when the mind dissolves. Sixth mantra tells us about the method of contemplation. So it says, Naiva chintyam na cha chintyam na chintyam chintyameva tat pakshapata vinirmuktam brahma sampadyate tada. Naiva chintyam. This cannot be thought of. Nacha achintyam. Yet it is not unthinkable. Nachintyam. It should not be thought of. Chintyam evatat. Yet that alone is to be thought of. Now this appears very confusing. But we have to understand this carefully. How does mind experience anything? Mind retains its identity as a subject and then it conceptualizes, visualizes, imagines, and then experiences it as an object. So if one says apple, the image of an apple will come in the mind. Then that desire, okay, I must eat an apple, that desire will make that person seek it. Then one takes it, one enjoys it, then one feels, I have enjoyed the apple. So mind as the subject imagines, visualizes, seeks it, experiences it, it retains throughout this identity that I am the subject and I am enjoying some object. Same way it happens with the other objects in the world. It happens with emotions also. We experience happiness, sorrow, love, fear, excitement, generosity, so many things we experience. Same thing happens with the intellectual ideas. Some goals we have, some value system we follow, certain belief systems. I believe in God, I don't believe in God, I am a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I am a capitalist, I'm a communist, whatever. In all these, the mind has retained its separate identity as Mr. So and so, the subject, and then it experiences everything else as other than itself. Though we identify with the mind, so we feel that I am going through it. So we don't experience that the mind is going through anger and I am separate from the mind. That is what Upanishad is trying to tell us. You are not this mind. Right now the mind has completely identified, we have completely identified with the mind. So anger we experience. I am experiencing anger, I am experiencing happiness, I am experiencing sorrow, I am experiencing this cake, that apple, this party, that movie. So that full identification has become complete with that. So it is as though I am experiencing. So I, the subject, think I am this mind, and now I am experiencing everything as the object. And when this Mr. So and so small I has gone to sleep in a deep sleep state, then there is no object to experience. So this is the regular process by which we experience everything in the world. Now the self is not an object to experience. Just like we experience any thing in this world, or an emotion, or a thought, the self is not a finite entity like that. It is infinite consciousness, the very source because of which the mind is able to feel and think. And then through the body one is able to experience the world. The source is infinite. So this infinite truth, if it has to be experienced, how to experience? As we saw last time, it cannot come in the grasp of the mind. That's why the Upanishads also say, Yan manasana manute. It is that which cannot be thought of by the mind. Yena ahur manomatam. But it is that because of which the mind thinks. Yat chakshusha na pashyati. Yena chakshumshi pashyati. That which cannot be seen by the eyes, but because of which the eyes are able to see. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi. Know that to be Brahman. So this mind cannot grasp it. So it is said naiva chintyam, meaning it cannot be thought of as an object, as a concept, as a thing separate from itself as some finite tangible entity. Because whatever is finite is perishable. So it says, don't think of it as an object. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Taittiriya Upanishad also says, from where the mind and the speech return, they cannot grasp it. So the Upanishad here says, naiva chintyam. Don't, it cannot be thought of as an object. Oh, it cannot be thought of, then let us stop it. Nacha achintyam. It is not thinkable. Just now you said it cannot be thought of as an object. Now you are saying it is not thinkable, meaning it is thinkable. A double negative. Upanishad says yes, it is thinkable. How? Not as an object, but as the truth, as the subject, the real subject, not this Mr. So and so. This Mr. So and so is the small I with which I have identified. I've forgotten who I am. So not as that subject, not as any other object, but as the truth which illumines both subject and object. So it has to be known as the self. I am that self. If one contemplates that way, that is why it is said again in the Upanishad, Manasa eva idam aptavyam. It can be grasped only by the mind. So you see, that is why we have to learn the Upanishad from a teacher, because otherwise we will get completely confused. We will think what these people are going on contradicting. At some place they are saying it cannot be grasped, at some place they are saying it can be grasped only by the mind, not by nothing else. What is this? Because the levels are not clear. It can be grasped only by the mind. Why? Because this human body, this buddhi which we have, mind and intellect that we have, that is most unique. It has the ability to do vivek, sukshma vivek. Through that sukshma vivek, what is atma and anatma, what is temporary and permanent, what is jada and chetan can be recognized and then realized also. No other body we can do that. In all other bodies, there is bhoga only. This is karma yoni. This is manusha yoni is karma yoni. That's why in 84 lakh species, this is the one unique birth, human birth. So it can be grasped only by the mind. But which type of a mind? Mind which is purified, what we saw earlier, freed from the attachment to sense objects, etc. With that mind, and how it will be grasped? Not as an object, but as the subject, by dropping identification. I am not this, I am not this. So naiva chintyam nacha chintyam. It cannot be thought of as an object, yet it is not unthinkable, because it is possible to know it as the true subject, the real I. Then again it is said na chintyam. Acha, just now you said it is not unthinkable, so it is thinkable. When you are saying na chintyam, means what? It should not be thought of. Earlier it was cannot be thought of as an object. Now it is should not be thought of. Should not be thought of as what? As a concept. It's not some intellectual concept. Why? Because intellectual concept is based on some logic, some reasoning. It can be abstract, it can be simple, it can be combination of both. It's again a tangible, finite thing. This is concept-free awareness. Any concept is limiting. Infinity cannot be brought down under any concept. Oh, but just now we are saying, Upanishads, they keep saying so many concepts about self. It is unborn, it is undying, it is unchanging, it is imperishable, it is, substratum. So many things it says, all those are concepts only. Then what else it is? They are not concepts. They are to negate all concepts. Those are the pointers. When it is said it is unborn, whatever is born, we have to drop. Whatever is born, we have to drop. Then what remains? Nothing remains. The entity who is dropping, even that entity you drop, the real I alone will remain. That is unborn. What is unborn cannot be explained, but what is born can be dropped. So that is why it is concept-free awareness. Unborn is not to say that the truth is a concept called unborn. Unborn is a concept to say everything which is born, leave it. Undying, everything which is perishable, drop it. What remains? The real I is imperishable, which observes all changes and all things which perish. That real I alone remains. If I drop everything, all objects dropped, and then the subject also who is thinking about it dropped, the real I beyond subject object remains. That is the truth. So this is concept-free awareness. No concept can limit the self. Every pointer is to destroy some wrong notion or some concept we have created of the self. And that is one reason why the language of contradictions is used by the masters. Like here, it can be thought of, it cannot be thought of, yet it is not unthinkable. So language of contradictions. It is smaller than the smallest, yet greater than the greatest. Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. It is farther than the farthest, tad dure, yet it is nearer than the nearest, tadvantike. So the concept of space, distance, all that goes. It is eternal. So the concept of time goes. These are not to define the self. The concepts are for things in the world. We can have concepts for so many things. Every subject, every field, there are so many concepts and ideas, and some are implemented, some are not yet implemented. Maybe in future they will be implemented. Some remain only as theories. So everything we experience it through some concept we have created. Beauty also. So many concepts we create, and then we make them into stereotypes. Then we have to break the stereotypes. White color is the superior color. Who said that? But the world goes on in that. And how much torture one has done based on just the skin color. How many lives destroyed and exploited just based on skin color, pigmentation, concept. Same way, all this democracy and capitalism and communism, socialism, all concepts. Every concept will deal with something finite. Every concept will have some positives and some negatives. So if we think that self also is a concept, which is what people say, the concept of God has been created by human beings to control the society. First of all, God is not a concept. If anything is a concept, that is not God. That's what the Upanishad is saying. How is God a concept? God is the ever-present reality here and now, beyond all concepts, which is experienceable immediately without any medium. Concepts are experienced through the medium of the buddhi. God is not experienced through any medium. That's why it is immediate experience. Aparoksha anubhuti it is. Immediate experience here and now. Not sometime in future, not somewhere up in heaven, not after death. Right here and now. Concept free. If there is anything which is concept free, that is God alone. And people say that only is a concept created by people. Because they refer to only some other forms or some other ideas or depictions, and their understanding is limited by those concepts. So they think God is that, and they think some human beings created that to control the society, to create fear, to bring morality, to enforce some rules. But if we come to Vedanta, then we understand God is not some concept. God alone is concept free. No concept can bind God. Infinity, what concept will bind? Even the word infinity cannot bind it. Because how can you define infinity? We can only say that which is, what is the definition of infinity in Vedanta? Desha, Kala, Vastu, Aparichinna. That which is not limited by space means which is not only in one place, it is everywhere. Which is not limited by time, meaning it is beyond past, present, future. Which is not limited by object, which is common in everything. So it is negating space-time object. What remains, which is free from this limitation of space-time and object, that is infinity. And that's called infinity. Again, all concepts get destroyed in that. So, naiva chintyam, nacha achintyam. It cannot be thought of as an object, yet it is not unthinkable, because it is only through this mind which gets purified, and in the right way, if I think about it, then I can realize the self. What is the proof? So many great masters have realized. Each of them is a living proof of what the Shastra is saying is true. So, naiva chintyam, nacha chintyam. Na chintyam, it should not be thought of as a concept, because it is concept-free awareness. Then, if it should not be thought of, but then it is said, it alone should be thought of. Chintyam eva tat, because that alone is worth thinking about. It is imperishable reality. Everything else will perish. How much time we spend behind the perishable? How much time do we spend to realize the imperishable? So less time. The time that we have in this human life is so limited. If the limited time I utilize to realize the timeless, then that is the best use of the time. If the thinking I use to realize that which is beyond thought, that is the best use of thought. Gurudev used to say this, act to become actionless, worship to become the worshipful, meditate to become the meditated. That's the best use of human life. So it alone is worth thinking about. Brahma and Dharma, these are only two things worth thinking about honestly in this world. Obviously, Dharma will include everything, bhakti, karma, jnana, all that. Brahman is absolute truth. What else is worth thinking about? It has its relevance, importance, there is no doubt, at certain relative level. But when we come to the macro picture of evolution itself and the realization, then everything in its place is all right, but we ignore the truth in pursuit of everything else which is perishable. Which is why it is said chintyam eva tat, meaning tat eva chintyam. That alone is to be thought of. Swamiji, how can we think 24 hours that alone? We have family, we have children, we have house to take care of, we have profession to do, we have social life. We can't keep thinking of that only. That's why that preparation is required, that karma yoga, etc. If I do with the bhav that everything I'm doing is dedicated to the divine. That is called thinking all the time of that. It doesn't mean only sit in one place and do japa. The bhavana is all this is dedicated to the divine. I consciously keep reminding myself and act out of that bhav. That is karma yoga. Then I come to upasana, I do the sadhana, I chant the mantra, or I take up any other upasana and sublimate this ego. Then one comes to Upanishad, where one is steadily contemplating on the self. And through the day one maintains that this role I am playing, I am not this jiva, I am that consciousness, I am that supreme Brahman, or I am the Sakshi, full time, as much as one can. Be aware. That is a sadhana. That's why it is 24/7. It is not some weekly sadhana that one can do once in a day, one can go for a few minutes in a day, one can sit. That can be a good beginning, but it has to be through the day. So, naiva chintyam, meaning it cannot be thought of as an object. Nacha achintyam, meaning it is not unthinkable, meaning it can be thought of as the subject. Na chintyam, it is not thinkable as a concept. But chintyam eva tat, it alone is to be thought of as the true subject beyond all concepts. That's the meaning of the first line. One ant and elephant joke I read somewhere. It was very nice. This elephant was going, and suddenly this ant stops the elephant. Stop. So the elephant stopped. So what happened? Ant didn't say anything. The ant went around the elephant, observing the elephant from top to bottom, and is going around. This elephant is also saying, what is this ant doing? Is going all around me. And after the ant saw the whole elephant, again came to the front and gave a very deep sigh. So the elephant said, what happened? So the ant said, I lost my swimsuit. I just wanted to check whether you are using it. But you don't have the swimsuit. So again, I have to search now, where did I lose my swimsuit? That example sounds very, this story sounds, either funny or strange. But the conclusion is, perhaps an elephant can fit into the swimsuit of an ant, but God cannot fit into the concepts of human intellect. That is the point. Any concept we make, including Sat Chit Anand pointers, are not concepts. Sat is to negate that state of realization of the state of the self, Because some people think it is a state of non-existence. To negate the concept of non-existence, it is said it is not non-existence, it is existence. Some people think it is jada, it is inert state. To negate that inert state, it is called, no, it is consciousness, chit. Oh, it is a dull, boring state. No, to negate that, it is said it is the state of ananda, bliss. All are to negate. When we negate, what remains? That state of infinity is the truth. And that we can realize only through this mind, purified mind, where the mind loses its existence. So the mind contemplates on the self as I am that. Today we think that I am this. So the mind says I am angry, I am happy, I am sad, I am this, I am that, son of so and so. All those identifications, it drops. Then I am that infinite pure consciousness beyond all thought, beyond all concepts, not the object, not the subject, the real I, which observes both the subject, the small I, and the object. That true self I am. That way, if one contemplates, then pakshapata vinirmuktam, one will realize that truth which is beyond all duality, beyond all partiality, beyond all pairs of opposites. Brahma sampadhyate tada. That is the state of Brahman. One experiences at that time. So now this is the basic meaning. Now in contemplation, what does one do? One uses pointers of the self. It will come ahead also. To negate everything that I am not, to negate all that which is not self, and to assert that I am that infinite consciousness, not as an object, but as the subject. This I has to lose itself. Oh, Swami, that's very difficult. Can't understand. So we do that every day in our life. There's nothing, something very complicated we have to do. That's the beauty of Vedanta. Truth is right here and now. In our daily life, every moment we can experience. But we are lost in some concepts, so that's why we are not able to experience. So example is very simple. Suppose, suppose your name is Prakash. And I say, Prakash, come here. So from, let us say, 20 people who are sitting in front, whoever is Prakash, that person will come or not? That person will come. Now, why did that person come? And what is the methodology behind that? When that person heard, Prakash, come here, did that person think that Prakash, meaning somebody called Prakash, is being called? No. That person didn't objectify. Oh, somebody called Prakash is being called. Did that person think that Prakash means light? So light is being called. Did the person go by the meaning? No. Person dropped objectification. Person dropped the word and the meaning conveyed by the word. Then what did the person think? Prakash is I. I am being called. So that person went to meet whoever has called. Same way, when we say bring the apple, we don't think some fruit is being told. Bring the apple. So the person who hears it, let us say it is some servant. Now that servant sees that is an apple. Now that person doesn't think that apple is some red color fruit. What is a red color fruit? And apple, if you eat, it will help to, if you have loose motions, it will stop the loose motions, etc. Nothing. He drops the word, he drops the meaning of the word, he drops what the apple benefits are. This is that apple. Take over. Everyday life we do all that continuously. Same way in contemplation, one is not meditating on some self. Oh, some self is achintyam, unthinkable. No. I am that pure consciousness, which is beyond thought. So now the word also gone, achintyam. The meaning of the word beyond thought also gone. And the objectification also gone. then what one realizes? I am that achintyam. I am that infinite consciousness. I am not the mind. I am not the concept in the mind. I am that consciousness enlivening everything, which is beyond thought. So anything which is a thought, I will drop. Anything, including this word achintyam, drop. Because it's a thought, drop. What will remain? That is really achintyam. That is called aparokshanubhuti. That is what has to be done in contemplation. So this is what he says: Naiva chintyam, nacha chintyam, achintyam chintyam eva tat. If you see in the commentary, one very nice quote is there. Samarth Ramdas ji, he says, without becoming a thinker, think of that which cannot be thought of. It looks like some play of words, but it is not. Without becoming the thinker, because thinker is a small I. Without becoming a thinker, think of that which cannot be thought of. How can I think without becoming a thinker? So I become a thinker and I think of the self, which is beyond thought. But when I'm contemplating on the self, which is beyond thought, a point comes where even the identity of the thinker goes. Object, the self is no more being thought of as an object, self is no more being thought of as a subject. What those words indicate, what is that state beyond thought, there one has lifted oneself and just stops. That is the state of realization. Brahma sampadyate tada. So step by step, if we have to go using the thinker, the attitude that I am a meditator, I am a seeker, we drop attachment to all objects. Then it was said you bring the mind into the heart. Now this thinker has to go into the heart. Go into the heart meaning has to absorb in the heart. Meaning what? That I am not this Mr. So-and-so, I am that consciousness, which is why Shravan and Manan is important. If I have heard from a teacher, I have understood properly, reflected upon it, cleared my doubts, then only Nididhyasana will happen. If I read simply from some books, I have not gone to a teacher, I have not studied properly, I have not clarified my doubts, some khichdi I have made, and then I have gone everywhere, doing all types of things continuously. Some meditation, pyramid meditation also, some crystal gazing also, and some Reiki also, and something. Continuously I keep on doing everything. Then khichdi will only happen. Because each one has a different purpose. In some one has to use symbols, supports. In this you don't have to use any symbol. You have to drop all symbols and supports. So then one gets confused. Because one didn't learn traditionally properly. That's the importance of parampara, going to the guru, studying properly. So if one has done that, then this will happen. So this shloka also tells us how much the importance is of our preparation of the mind. And Karma Yoga Upasana is the preparation. Then go to the teacher, then listen, reflect, then this contemplation will happen properly. In the seat of contemplation, if doubts come, that means Manan has not happened. How can I be that which is imperishable? I have a doubt. Okay, now let me think about the logic. Why is it that I am imperishable? What is the scriptural logic? And all that I don't have to do in contemplation. That I should do in Mananam stage, in reflection stage. When I become convinced that yes, I am that consciousness, intellectual conviction has to come properly. Then contemplation will become effortless. That yes, I am consciousness, I am not the object, I am not this small I, the subject, I am beyond both. Because the small I keeps changing every minute. And in deep sleep it becomes dormant. But the real I remains throughout, not negatable. That is the truth. So that way, if I have done, then I will realize that this is the absolute. Now, so that is what this mantra is about, and which is why the Upanishad, when it says Atmava are drashtavyaha, shrotavyaha, mantavyaha, nididhyasitavyaha, that this self alone is that which is to be known. In Taittiriya Upanishad, and how will it be known? Through Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. Not Taittiriya, sorry. In Chandogya Upanishad, when Shvetaketu returns from his Gurukul, Uddalak Rishi asks him, did you come to know that knowing which everything is known? And Shvetaketu answers in a very arrogant way. He says, if my teacher knew it, he would have taught. From the way that student was coming, Shvetaketu, Uddalak Rishi realized that he has not known the truth. So he asked him, did you know that knowing which everything becomes known? Shvetaketu said, if my teacher knew, he would have taught. Uddalak Rishi said, did you ask for it? And then he realized, no, I did not ask for it. I myself did not know about it. So then he humbly asks, please teach me, what is that? And 9 experiments Uddalak Rishi does, and at the end of each one he says, Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. So the importance of learning, same Chandogya only says, Acharyavan Purusho Veda, the person who has an Acharya will know the truth. This knowledge is not possible just like that, through just reading books, because it's not a verbal knowledge, it is intuitive realization. And so here it is, Pakshapata Vinirmuktam Brahma Sampadyate Tada. To maintain this concept-free awareness is why this language of contradictions is used. Again, in the commentary, a nice example is given that when we say that a person is tall, then with reference to somebody who is short, we think this person is tall. So person who is not short, now this person is tall. Suppose you say that person is neither short nor tall, then our mind says, Acha, neither short nor tall. That means medium height. So again a concept is made. So if somebody denies all concepts, neither short nor tall nor medium, then one cannot frame a concept. Obviously, in the case of finite, just imagine, in case of finite itself, it is not possible to know something without a concept. That's why we struggle. Because we need something to hold on to. If that person is not tall, not short, not medium, then is it between medium and tall, between medium and short? Where? How do you place? Which is why the challenge comes that how to explain the self, which is infinite, which is beyond all concepts. So the only method is use language of contradictions. So if we say self is in the hearts of all, now somebody thinks it is very small little thing somewhere inside the heart. Then it is said, no, it is bigger than the biggest everywhere. Now I can't make any concept. Neither it is small nor it is big. Beyond both it is. If it is only big, then it is not small. If it is only small, it is not big. It is neither big nor small. Ahrasvam ananu. Now what will one say? It is neither small nor big. Then what is it? Everything that is small and big you drop. What remains? It is that. So that is how one lets go of every concept. That is called being concept free. The thinker also is a thought. The thinker also is a concept. So when we say concept free, it is not that thinker retains itself and then drops other concepts. Thinker drops all concepts of self, drops itself also. Then that person Brahma Sampadyate Tada. So this is what this mantra is all about. And why will one realize that? Because that is our true nature. That's the best part. Concepts are only entangling us, making us identify with something finite. If we drop all identification with the finite, infinity is our nature right here and now. Immediately we realize. So one doesn't have to doubt. If I drop all concepts, then maybe it is a void. It is not. It is a state of infinity. Because void also is a concept. And the entity knows that void. So that entity also is a concept. The knower of that entity, the knower of that void is a concept. And the knower is knowing something which is a concept, that it is a void, means nothing is here. It's all blank. Both are concepts only. Self is beyond the thinker, beyond thought, beyond void. It is existence, consciousness, bliss. Again pointers. to negate what it is not and remain in that concept-free awareness. Now somebody says, Swamiji, this is very difficult. Naturally, this is meant for the Uttamadhikari. This cannot happen just like that to us. We have to prepare our mind. So always we find in the Upanishad, one technique is from the highest, subtlest to the simplest will be the teaching. Because the subtlest, the student who is prepared will get the subtlest indicator and realize job is done. Those who can't understand, then it is simplified further. So now in the 7th mantra it is said that this is 6th mantra is very subtle. Now how to prepare for that? Karma Yoga is one preparation, but now here it is Upasana is indicated. And this Upasana is such that if I do this Upasana, I will prepare the mind, and using the same mantra I can go beyond also. So it is double benefit. It can be used as the means to prepare the mind, and it can also be used as the goal which helps us to realize the goal, the state of consciousness. Now see that 7th mantra. Svarena sandhayet yogam aswaram bhavayet param asvarena anubhavena bhavo va bhava ishyate. So he says, Svarena sandhayet yogam. Union must be established with the help of sound. Then, first step, Aswaram bhavayet param. Then one should meditate that which is beyond sound. 2 steps only. What will happen if you meditate with that beyond sound? Aswarena anubhavena. Then what will happen? Bhavo va bhava ishyate. This existence will become non-existence. Meditate, attain union with the help of sound. Then meditate on that which is beyond sound. If you meditate on that which is beyond sound, existence will become non-existence. Oh God, what is this? This Upanishad language is very difficult. Why can't they use simple language to just tell? Our problem is that. The problem of the Rishi is, if I tell in simple language, it cannot be explained properly because it's infinite. More confusions can happen because those simple language words have different connotations in our mind. So the Upanishad Rishi has another problem. Like even the word Atma, when we say Atma, how many wrong notions we have about Atma? Bhutatma, Pretatma, Bhakti-atma, Duratma, Dushtatma. We keep thinking like that. So the teacher, when the teacher has to use the word Atma, has to first define what is Atma. Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira, Vyatirittam, Panchakoshatita, San, Avasthatraya, Sakshi, all that. Sachidananda, Swarupa, Yastishtati. All that one has to tell the student. Atma means this. Existence means this. Sat means this. Chit means this. Gross body means this. Subtle body means this. Causal body memeans this. That's why Tattva Bodh and Prakarana Granthas are important to study. Otherwise, we will not understand. And these mantras, if we have studied the fundamentals, then it becomes very clear. Oh, this is what they mean here. Otherwise, we will get confused. Today, people want to read Upanishad and Gita directly, not wanting to go through step-by-step process. Then they get confused. Then they say, this is not practical. This is too subtle a philosophy. It is meant for mumukshu only. It is not meant for somebody who wants to just decorate one's life or make one's life into better organized life. For that, there are other granthas. Go for that. Upanishad knowledge is to dissolve the ego. So here, when it is said swara, swara here means what? So the word swara has many meanings. So swara can mean the 7 swaras in music. Swara can mean vowels in the Sanskrit language. Swara can mean 3 swaras which we have in Vedic chanting. The plain, then Anudatta, then Udatta, or even the fourth one, Pluta. So those are swaras, the intonations. Different meanings the word swara has. But in this case, so swara is not just sound here, or some musical notes, or some intonations, or some vowels. Swarena sandhayat yogam means, swara here means Omkar. Oh, how does it mean Omkar? Swayam rajate iti swaraha. That which is self-effulgent, self-shining, self-luminous, that Paramatma is called swara. And the primordial swara, the most basic sound, the first sound of creation is Omkar. That's why swara here means that. And aswara means, so Omkar means sound. And why only Omkar? Why not anything else? Why can't it be Bomkar, Gomkar? It can be anything. Jhum. Why it has to be Om? Because a, u, ma represent all sound possibilities. And this whole creation is sound vibrations. We may not be able to understand that because of the limitation of the senses, but even science says the entire thing is only vibrations, energy, vibrations, whatever you call, sound. So many, like bats, the sound that they can hear, we can't hear. Our ears have a limitation. Doesn't mean those sounds don't exist. Things that we can see with our limited eyes, there are other beings who can see much more. So our senses have limitation. A, U and Ma cover all the sound possibilities. So Om represents the entire manifest world. And Om is the shortest syllable indicating the Supreme. Om iti ekaksharam Brahma. And the Upanishad say, Om iti idagam sarvam. Om is all this. Why? Because that same primordial sound over grossification becomes this whole creation. So Om is the visible manifest world, which includes the gross world, subtle world, causal world, all the three. That's why Akara Matra represents the waking state, Ukara dream state, Makara deep sleep state. A, U, Ma. So the entire universe, which is finite, which is sound, is included in this A, U, Ma. And it is a sound symbol of the truth. Form has come later, but one should meditate on just the sound. Swarena sandhayet yogam, meaning just chant Om. And while chanting, focus on the chanting of that Om. Mind will become quiet. If one wants, while taking the breath in, one chants Om mentally, and when one releases the breath, one chants Om loudly. So if one does that, the mind will become quiet. And while doing the chanting, pay attention to that. Yoga means to unite. Dropping all other thoughts, just focus on the sound of Om. Swarena sandhayet yogam. Sit quietly in a place, head, neck, and spine in a straight line. Let the breathing be deeper. Then chant Om. First chant loudly and fast, then slowly. Reduce the speed, then reduce the volume, then chant mentally. Then after some time that also will stop. That state of silence, that is aswaram, that is a silence. What is that state of silence? We may think it is silence of the mind. But if the mind is absorbed in that silence, all the thoughts and the thinker gone. That silence is our true self. Aswaram bhavayet param. That aswaram is param. That is the supreme state. One should not say that my mind is experiencing silence. Then I'm holding on to mind. Dissolve that mind in that silence, focus on that silence. So initially Gurudev used to teach us this. He used to say chant Om, focus on the sound of Om, then slowly shift the attention from the Om to the gap between the two Oms, that silence. That is the fourth matra. Amatra Om it is called. A, U, Ma, three matras. In between is the fourth one, Amatra. It is silence. That silence is consciousness. That is what I have to realize. I am that silence which is beyond mind, beyond all concepts, beyond all sound. These words I'm using because again limitation, how to express otherwise. But in that state, no words. One has to just know, I am that. Absorb, complete stillness. Any thought rises, one sees, I am that silence from which the thought rises, sound rises, stays, falls. Like how the sound rises from silence, it stays into it and it falls. Same way thought rises from me, it stays, it falls. I am not the thinker, I am not the thought. Who am I? I am the self. And this silence is the primordial, is the silence before even Omkar. Om rises from this silence. Sadeva Saumya Idam Agra Asit. That state of Sat is this silence. And that is our true nature. That is called Aswaram Bhavayet Param. Swarena Sandhayet Yogam Aswaram Bhavayet Param. Bhavayet, meaning don't verbalize. Lift the mind to that level where it dissolves and only that silence remains. It is not silence of the mind. It is mind is dissolved in that silence. It is beyond mind. It is silence of the self. And that silence of the self remains throughout. We get identified with the mind, so we lose as though the focus on it. But in that contemplation, that is what we do. Withdraw from all other thoughts by focusing on Omkar chanting, and then slowly shift from the Om to silence. And then as we do this, even the chanting will stop. One who doesn't want to think anything. One doesn't want to verbalize anything. One just is in that state. And it is not blank. If one has studied all this Vedanta properly, one will realize this is Chaitanya Swarup Atma, I am this. Again, I'm saying these are words I am using. One doesn't have to say I am this Swarup Atma. One will know it. That's the power of Shravan and Manan. One will know this I am. Aswaram Bhavayet Param. Now what will happen? What is the result of this? Aswarena Anubhavena. When this bhavana arises, that I am that, bhavo va bhava ishyate. Their existence becomes non-existence. Huh? Just now you said it is a state of existence, bliss, and sat, and now it is becoming void again. Existence becomes non-existence means that world which was existing, which was real to me, disappears. In that state of silence, there is only one blissful, pure consciousness, nothing. No thinker, no thought, and no world, nothing, gone. Everything disappears, gone. In that state. Existence becomes non-existence. And non-existence becomes existence. Sanskrit language is like that. Bhavo va abhava ishyate can be used in both ways. Existence becomes non-existence, non-existence becomes existence. What is this confusion now? See, the non-existence which I felt God does not exist, God is a concept or truth is a concept, which was so far non-existent for me, now it becomes existent that it is me. And the world which was so real to me disappears in that state. Every night it anyway disappears in deep sleep, but there is ignorance. Here in this state, there is no doubt. It happens consciously. One knows I am that infinite consciousness, world is not there. Thinker is not there. It is a state of illumination. So bhavo va abhava ishyate means that it will, the existence becomes non-existent. So far, So if we have to understand in stages, let us understand this properly. In stage 1, world alone is real. There is no God. Because I believe only what I see. That is stage 1. Stage 1. World is, God is not. Stage 2, world is and God is. Because I realize from where did this world come? There has to be effect, then there has to be cause. And that cause cannot be finite, it has to be infinite. Cause cannot be inert, it has to be sentient. So world is and God is. How interesting it is now. We can admit God's existence now in stage 2. God is so accommodative. If in stage 1 we have denied him, it doesn't bother. Stage 2 we include saying, okay, now you exist, now I believe, okay, fine, you are there. God says, thank you very much. Very good. You have accepted my existence and you have allowed me entry. Very nice. So stage 1, world is, God is not. Stage 2, world is, God is. Then stage 3, I don't see the world as real as I was seeing in stage 1 and 2. I see the world as illusory. This world is not real, it is changing. And that God is that which is changeless substratum. So that changeless is real, the changing is illusory. It is not unreal as of now, it is illusory. So why am I running behind it? Because it's continuously changing, and what I seek is changeless, permanent happiness. This world cannot give me. So one understands Vedant, one develops Vivek, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutvam, all that, and one says, no point in running if this world is illusory. A seasoned traveler in the desert knows very clearly this is a mirage. So the seasoned traveler doesn't run. The novice will run. Oh, water is there, will run and get exhausted, panting, huffing, puffing. One will reach there. There is no water. Already one was thirsty. Then one ran, expended so much of energy. Now one is so much more thirsty and there is no water there. And then again it appears as though water is somewhere far away. The seasoned traveler knows there is no water there. So one who has done reflection, Atma, Anatma, Vivek, and one has done what is Nitya, Nitya, Vivek, then one says this world is illusory, cannot expect permanent happiness from there. So chasing stops. If chasing stops, which is what first 3 verses told us, then I can withdraw that if this is changing, then there has to be something which is changeless. What is that? To know that, I withdraw the mind from anything that is changing. So in that third stage, the world is illusory, God is more real. And one is moving away from illusoriness to the reality. That I want to know that truth. Call it God, consciousness, truth, reality, whatever. And then through this contemplation, what we saw in this verse 6 and 7, one wakes up to realize that God alone is. That's the fourth state. That truth alone is. And the way I was seeing the world as separate, it does not exist. The entire world also is appearance of that divine only. So the duality in the mind is gone. In that state of non-duality, one experiences Aswaram Bhavayet Param, one experiences absolute. Then if one comes down to body level, one sees this entire universe also as appearance of the divine. So that non-existence has become now existent. God, which was non-existent in first stage, now has become existence. Meaning it's real, I am that. And the world which was existent, which was so real to me, has now become non-existent in the state of samadhi. And again it becomes non-existent from duality standpoint. I see the world not as world, but I see the world as God. So many Mahatmas have lived like that. So bhavo va abhava ishyate. That is what it means. So the realization is not just one experience that comes and goes. That person experiences, abides in that. One sees everything also as that alone. So that is what shloka is all about. Mantra number 7. So 6 and 7 we have done. Please read the commentary of both these. Very important. Subtle verses these are. And in the next class, we will begin with a 10-minute Omkar meditation. We will learn to focus on the 15 minutes. We learn to focus on the sound of Om and then silence between the Om. So that's what we will begin with. So we will stop here for today. Yes, Manoharji, go ahead.
Hari Om Swamiji, thank you so much for expressing these difficult and subtle concepts to us so simply that we could understand. We'll now have the Arati. The Arati Yajaman today is Srimati Nivedita Shivasubramaniam.
आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरति सद्गुरु की चरणों में उनके शांति समाए शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए पाप ताप संताप हरण की आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरति सद्गुरु की वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरति सद्गुरु की सिद्ध बाणी की तपो भूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे भक्त हृदयानंद स्रोत की आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरति सद्गुरु की आरति सद्गुरु की
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Oh, there is a question. All right. How do I maintain a meditative state in my day-to-day activities? As I said, we have to maintain the bhav that I am either one says I am a seeker or I am a witness, and this is only a role that I am playing, that is Jnana Marg. Or one says that I am a Sevaka Bhagwan, I am doing seva to the Lord through all the activities and roles that I am playing, and consciously remember to dedicate every minute the actions to the Lord. So either through Karma Yoga attitude or through the Jnana Yoga attitude. And specifically if you want Bhakti Yoga, then keep doing japa as much as one can through the day. Like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa would say that with When you are working in the world, with one hand you work in the world, with one hand you hold on to God. When you have finished your work, then with both hands you hold on to God. So either of the paths one can use, or a combination also one can use, and maintain that meditative state. If the mind wanders, bring it back to whichever path one is following. When we say ego dissolve, is it Chidabhas realizes itself to be Chaitanya? No, Chidabhas dissolves, gone. Chidabhas itself is a myth. Chidabhas realizes consciousness alone is I am that. Again, I'm saying those are words. Because what is Chidabhas? Consciousness identifying with the subtle body is Chidabhas. When one is saying I am not the subtle body, then where is Chidabhas? And then how is it that Chidabhas will dissolve into something else? It is not. The subtle body itself is negated, Chidabhas also gets negated. Who realizes? Consciousness realizes itself. Chidabhas cannot realize consciousness, because Chidabhas and consciousness are not two separate things. Like the actor and the role that one is playing. The actor forgets himself and thinks he is the role. Now the role is not going to realize the actor. The actor only realizes, this role is not me at all. It's gone. I alone am. I am that actor. So it is like that.
Hari Om Swamiji, pranams to everyone. Swamiji, who or what is a mumuksha, and can you define him? And is a mumuksha related or connected in the process of attaining moksha?
Please go back to the fundamental text of Vedanta. Mumukshutvam is the intense desire for liberation from the sense of finitude and from the mind itself. Last time also I had explained in the class that freedom is not a quality of the mind. Freedom from the mind itself, the identification that I am this mind, I am the jiva, that intense desire to drop this identification and to realize my nature as infinite consciousness, that is called mumukshutvam. And that mumukshutvam, that is the quality in fourfold qualifications of a sadhak. And that without that one will not be able to pursue this path steadily and realize the self. So that is the first part of your question. What was the second part? Sorry, I forgot.
Is it related or connected in the process of attaining moksha?
It is related. That's the most fundamental qualification. Without that, one will not realize the self. Because the problem is false identification. And if I justify that false identification, there is no desire for mukti. Then I just want to retain this and just be free from some problems in my life. That is not the mumukshutvam referred to in Vedanta. In Vedanta, mumukshutvam is drop the identification with anything that is finite and realize the infinite. That intense desire to know the infinite and drop identification with anything finite, that is called tivra mumukshutvam. And that is the qualification required to go to the Guru. The Uttam Adhikari will have that mumukshutvam and will go to the Guru seeking the knowledge of the self. So the Brahma Jignasa will happen only then, when the intense mumukshutvam is there. So it is a part of this process. Without it, process will not happen.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Okay, so before I conclude, many of you may be aware, but I just want to announce here that Guru Purnima is on 13th, and we have 3 satsangs this year. 10th, we will celebrate at the Prempuri Ashram in Chinmay Sagar at Chowpatty from morning 10 to 12:30. 13th, which is a Guru Purnima day, we will have at Chinmay Pradeep in Pavai Ashram from morning 9:30 am to 11. And then same evening at Andheri, DN Nagar, we will have 6 p.m. to 8:15. All of you are welcome to attend offline. Please do attend offline, come together and express our gratitude to the entire Guru Parampara. And in case you are not here or you are not able to come or you are staying anywhere else outside Mumbai, you are welcome to join online also. Okay, last question for today. Are all thoughts to be negated? How does one honor a thought and cut off the desire? See, if one wants realization of the self, all thoughts are to be negated, including the thinker itself. Now, if one wants to honor a thought and cut off a desire, then that is a different purpose. It may be a sadhana, it may be a preparation, like if one wants to, let us say, hold on to the mantra and then drop all other thoughts or drop all other wandering thoughts. That's a part of the process in sadhana. One wants to cultivate a value or one wants to emphasize a certain attitude. Those are preparations which also can be done. The process of cutting off and holding on can happen simultaneously, in the sense that if I hold on strongly to a particular thought, suppose I hold on to Om Namah Shivaya, any other thought or desire I should drop, let go. At that time, if the mind goes to anything else, just bring it back to that Om Namah Shivaya. Then I'm honoring that thought of Om Namah Shivaya and I'm letting go of the desire. And this will become facilitated and it becomes easy when I am able to practice this in the time other than my Upasana time or Japa time, where in my mind I ensure that the value that I have given to the world or the attachments that I have, I'm able to see the limitations, what we saw in the earlier verses. See the Pratipaksha Bhavana, develop Vivek, Vairagya. Then the desires will not erupt so much. And the negative thoughts, if I have to let go, I have to strengthen the feelings of positivity. I have to ensure that I have some inspiring goal. I must focus more and more on something creative, constructive, channelize it through, working with people. So many methods are there by which I increase my positivity and I overcome the negative. I cannot overcome it by fighting negative. I have to focus more on the positive and derive more satisfaction and joy from that. So that is what has to be done. Okay, thank you everyone. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.